Many of you know and love The Chosen, and nothing I'm about to say should change that. But last week it was revealed on June 1st, in what seemed to be in honor of the kickoff of Pride Month, there was a camera rig on the set of The Chosen that had a pride flag on that rig. And it was exposed, and a lot of people online started asking questions about it. And then some actors from The Chosen, a guy that plays Thaddeus and a guy that plays James in the show, went to the defensive and immediately came alongside this person that had the pride flag on their rig, and then not only condemned anybody that had anything to say about it, but also praised the pride movement. Now, that created a lot of controversy, as you can imagine, online, and I want to talk about it. But before I do so, I want to be really, really clear about something. I'm very committed to a principle, and it's a principle from Scripture, and it says this: do not let the work of the Lord be destroyed because of food. In other words, what it means is don't destroy what God is doing just simply because of personal preference. You might not see the value in something, you may not even like something, but if God is using it for his purposes, then it's important that we don't step in the way and to try to destroy that thing. Now, I want to be really clear. What I'm about to say is in no way intended to do that. Again, if you enjoy The Chosen, watch it. I don't want this to be simply an opportunity for those who want to bash The Chosen to jump in on the bandwagon and bash The Chosen. In fact, that's the opposite of what I want to do. On both sides, whether you blindly trust The Chosen to tell you everything about Jesus or you blindly bash it without real reason, somewhere in between that is what I'm really after, which is that we need to be willing to ask questions, think critically, and really engage topics, especially as Christians, when we typically superstitiously avoid these things by just saying, well, this is about Jesus, so we can't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Really, because actually, I think that's where we need to be the most engaged and the most thoughtful. And certainly, I think we could use with some thoughtful takes about what just took place with The Chosen. Now, there's just a couple of points I want to address here. And the first one is just simply this. I think we need to be really honest about the presence of that pride flag. I want you to make no mistake whatsoever that pride flag, wherever it is flown, even if it's a little 3x4 flag, as you saw in the picture that I showed on the screen, a 3x4 little flag that was on a camera rig, even if it's a small flag, wherever a pride flag is flown, it is an act of worship. And it is a gesture that not only signals an idea, but a movement here in America and more broadly around the world. And let me try to illustrate that for you so that there's no mistake here. So, if there was a flag on the set of The Chosen that celebrated Planned Parenthood or celebrated abortion and the destruction of babies in the womb, maybe you would have a little bit of an issue with that. Maybe let's go one step further. What if there was a rebel flag on that rig rather than a pride flag? Would any of you have an issue? And would you think that there was a message that was trying to be sent with that pride flag that maybe shouldn't be on The Chosen? And then let's go to the ultimate example, of course, the one that is hackneyed and overused, but nonetheless necessary. What if there was a Nazi flag on that rig? Not only do I think you should have a problem with that, but also I think Dallas probably would have a problem with that and would ask the individual to take it down. So let's be really clear. Even if you're a libertarian and you think that that person should be able to have a pride flag or a Nazi flag on their rig, let's be really clear about what that flag represents. It represents not only an idea, but a movement. And a movement that is predicated upon the unbridled sexual pleasure of a group of people that worship self. That is what the pride flag represents. I want to give you one more thing to associate with it as well, because the pride movement and the pride agenda in America is also responsible for the bodily mutilation of young boys and girls that are gender dysphoric or have the social contagion of rapid onset gender dysphoria, and of adults. So not only is it responsible for bodily mutilation, but it's also responsible for the high increase in suicide among these people because of the ideas that are promoted through the pride agenda. So it's responsible for not only mutilation, but death. So I hope we can understand that a little bit of emotion might be in order when we see this kind of flag on the set of a show that represents Jesus. Again, if you don't have an emotional response to that flag, it could just be that you are allowing the culture to do your thinking for you, because what that flag represents is certainly something that Christians should take issue with. And I think they have every right to ask questions of Dallas and ask questions of the actors who are willing to defend this act. So to act like it's just a pride flag, no big deal, just simply means you don't understand what the pride flag actually stands for. Wherever it is present, it is an act of radical, boundless, self-willed pleasure and self-worship. So it is an act of worship. It's not just a little pride flag. So I hope we can clearly see that, and I hope that's not even too inarguable. But more than that, I think it's also important to question Dallas's actual response to this, because Dallas has an opportunity here, and I think a golden one. The subject has been broached, the issue of pride and where the Chosen stands on this issue is at the fore, especially during Pride Month, and now Dallas can make a statement about it. So here is Dallas making a statement about it over the weekend in a 19-minute long social media post, which I'll link below in the description of this podcast where you can hear it for yourself. But here's just a small snippet of what Dallas had to say.
And our personal policy has always been that we don't police individual workspaces or social media. So when we bring on independent contractors like our cast and crew, just from the beginning, Amanda and I, when we first started The Chosen, and my partner Daryl and others, we've just made it very clear to each other, to our cast and crew, and to you actually, that we do not have a religious or political litmus test for who we hire, and we also do not police individuals' social media or their own personal workspaces, like their own gear, their own equipment. Some of you are saying, yes, we're okay with you working with people of different faiths, but we're not okay with them, promoting something, their own agenda on set. And that's fair if you disagree with that. I'm not sure how that quite relates to the content of the show or how it relates to your particular life if you don't work on the show with me. But we can have a difference of opinion about that, and that's perfectly fine.
All right, so fair enough. Dallas's response has essentially been throughout this: I don't believe personal workspaces on set are relevant to the content of The Chosen. But if someone wants to stop watching a free show because of it, it's their right to do so. All right, okay, we hear you loud and clear. But there's one big problem. I think what Dallas thinks on this issue, and I think Dallas speaking up about this issue, is incredibly important. So why does Dallas need to make a statement about pride? Because it does make us wonder about the show. It makes us wonder and consider the inability of the show writer and creator Dallas to take a stand on this issue, and if that somehow reflects how Jesus will be portrayed in the show. Let me give you a for instance. A lot of people say this: well, Jesus never said anything about homosexuality directly. Like, Jesus never said those words, homosexuality is sin. Well, unfortunately, for those who don't read the Bible, it's actually really, really good. And you might want to take a look, because whenever Jesus actually is talking about heterosexual, monogamous marriage, he is, in effect, speaking to the pride community and to the pride agenda. He's speaking to the pride movement and to all those who wish to wave a flag in the air when he says that what God has put together, let no man separate. And what he's talking about there is the union between a man and a woman, because this comes in light of Jesus saying that marriage is when a man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves unto a woman, his wife. A biological one at that, by the way, not a them, they. That when they do that, let no person ever put that asunder or separate that idea, not just the couple, but the idea of what marriage actually is. This is something Jesus said. It's clearly an illustration of what Jesus thinks about the pride agenda. Now, will that ever show up in the show The Chosen? I highly doubt it. And here's why. Because Dallas now has the opportunity to take a stand, to share what he personally thinks about this issue as the writer of this show. And all we get is at the tail end of this social media clip, him saying, I don't celebrate pride. Well, fine. That's going to get you in trouble with a small segment of the pride community. But unfortunately, there's a much bigger Christian community that desires to hear more from you about this, because we want to know that the Jesus you're portraying for us is the Jesus of Scripture, the kind of Jesus that would take strong, controversial stances on this issue. So when Dallas comes out and says, my show speaks for itself, if you want to know what we think about these issues, watch the show. Here's the problem. The show doesn't actually speak to this issue, and it probably never will, which I think is at least a little bit of a problem. Now, the most important thing, I think, is this. Why should Dallas respond to this, and why should he make a statement about pride now? Because we deserve to know if a values-based business will actually take a stand so that we can put our passionate support behind them for the courage that they show, especially at a time where it is so important. Now, the church has made this mistake over and over and over again in the seeker movement. They have alienated their base by being unwilling to take a stand because they're so worried about what the outside world may think about a Christian who actually stands up for what they believe. And in the process, what happens is you alienate your base, and then the people who you're trying to reach despise you, because they don't want anybody pandering to them and not telling them what they actually believe. So this whole idea of welcoming, affirming, and celebrating is a paradigm that was created for us by the left that we've adopted into the church. It is not incumbent upon us to follow that paradigm. It's incumbent upon us to preach the truth as charitably as we possibly can. And so we need to see businesses, especially ones like The Chosen and shows like The Chosen and creators like Dallas Jenkins, we need to see them stand up on this issue as a great example to the rest of the church and as an inspiration to other Christians who wish to stand for the truth. After all, Jesus was kind of like that. Now, why should The Chosen do it? Well, because we're seeing secular businesses like the Daily Wire and Twitter stand up on these issues. Now, some may say the Daily Wire is a political organization, so that's more of their value system is to take a stand on these issues. But what about Twitter? Just over the weekend, around the same time as this Chosen controversy took place, Elon Musk was in a bit of a predicament because the Daily Wire wanted to show the hit documentary, What is a Woman? And there were people, higher up executives even, that when the Daily Wire sent a screener to Twitter executives and they saw it, they responded back to Daily Wire and said, you can post this on our platform, but here's what we will do. We will censor it, we will blacklist it, we will make sure you cannot share it, and we will make sure that as few people as possible actually see this thing, because we're going to suppress this because of hate speech, because of 2 instances of misgendering. So if you misgender people on your film, we're not going to allow you to proliferate it on our platform. You can censor the content, or you can play it as is, but know that that's what you're dealing with. Now, this on the heels of Elon Musk buying Twitter and saying, hey, this is a free speech platform. So apparently what took place was a couple of executives over at Twitter went rogue and decided to take matters into their own hands and to strike back against the Daily Wire. Now, in epic fashion, Elon, who was, I think, in China at the time, finally caught wind of what was going on. And shortly after this, Elon spoke up and said, all of these censorship issues will be removed immediately. And the people that are responsible, 2 of them already have been fired from Twitter. But that's not all. In the wake of this scandal and Elon's kind of apology, he went one step further, and he also posted on his personal Twitter account, which has over 140 million followers, I think. He posted this, that every parent should watch this, and then linked the Daily Wire's post of What is a Woman for the world to see. Now, as to date, this film has been released and been seen by more people than almost anything else on Twitter outside of, I think, Ron DeSantis' announcement. But this film has been viewed on Twitter more than any other post in the history of Twitter as a result of Elon's stand. Now, here's my question through all of that. Should Dallas Jenkins take less of a firm stance on issues like the transgender issue or pride issues? Should Dallas Jenkins take a weaker stance, a Christian evangelical man performing and creating a show about the life of Christ, than a man who is an agnostic at best, if not atheist, like Elon Musk, who is actually willing to stand up for what he truly believes in? Now here, it's not God, it's just the principle of free speech. But how much more should we trust and expect our Christian leaders to stand up for the principles and the values that they should be standing up for? And for the life of me, I don't know why more Christians don't think this way. If we know that we can support you because you are willing to stand up for the things that really matter, people will get behind you. People will support you, Dallas. That's why I think you missed a great opportunity. So I say this, not because I believe Dallas Jenkins is going to watch this and maybe learn a lesson and maybe actually take into consideration what I'm saying, but maybe you can. Maybe you as a Christian can push aside the superstitious notion that we should just not touch this because it's a show about Jesus and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. Maybe we should be willing to ask questions about it and maybe even think for ourselves what we think about these issues. The fact that there is backlash or that there is comments on social media doesn't always necessitate badness. I mean, it could be that we're sorting through our feelings and our emotion on this topic in a very public way. And I think actually that can be a very, very healthy thing. But more importantly, maybe you're a Christian business owner and you're wondering, what should I do in this situation? Let me just be very clear. You have some obligations according to civil rights laws in America. We get it. But it never stops you from personally speaking out and telling us where you stand on this issue. And that should be enough for most people. If we know that you're actually willing to promote the truth rather than cower behind your fear of alienating people that don't even really get behind what you're doing, if you're willing to put them above the people who are actually watching your show, then it makes people want to go the opposite direction. But if you stand, it makes people want to support you. And then I'll just make one final point about this, more broadly, just kind of about boycotts, because they seem to be out of control, right? There's a boycott a minute on social media. I think you need to take them more seriously than you might initially, because I get it. You can't boycott everything. You have to be able to get milk and bread somewhere, unless Bernie Sanders ever gets in office, and then you'll know exactly where to get it. That will be in government lines right outside of government buildings, nonetheless. But more broadly, boycotts actually can promote an actually pretty good Christian lesson, which is this, that sometimes just saying no to things, even when they hurt, can actually be beneficial to you. Having less might actually bring something into your life of benefit. I know in America, we are an indulgent society and we think the more the merrier, and we pile more and more stuff on top of our life. But maybe pushing things away might give you some space to actually realize, man, I didn't really need Target after all. And maybe I really didn't need this business in my life after all. And maybe I didn't need another show crowding up my life. Now, again, I'll just say, I think The Chosen among shows is probably your best bet. And I don't think this should sway your opinion about Dallas or the show. I just think it should help you understand this issue of pride and where we as Christians need to stand up for it more. And then maybe also to try to help you understand where your passionate support should be directed. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.